This week's Super Bowl MindEspresso is about the traits of elite leadership. How do you create a team of believers? I was struck by the Tampa Bay Tribune headline, which said that Tom Brady, in a year or less than a year, has created a team of believers in Tampa Bay. How does one person have such an impact? Well, there's an author who studied this. He's a sports writer. His name's Sam Walker. And he wrote a book called The Captain Class, and he studied great sports teams throughout history that had sustained excellence over time. And he tried to distill down what the heck made them successful. And he didn't start out to think about elite leadership. He tried to figure out what are the things that make for a successful team. And when he broke down every successful team that had sustained excellence over time, including the Patriots, he found the same thing: elite captaincy leadership. But it really isn't about the person. While it is about the person, it is a set of things that that person brings to a team. So if you're thinking about this from a personal perspective, you don't have to have all of these as a leader, but you have to have them on your team, right? And if you're thinking about them from a personal perspective, how do I become an elite leader of myself? What does my personal leadership quality look like? I think it creates a really nice checklist. Let me walk you through and then we'll pull this all back. Number one, elite leaders, captains, have focus and doggedness. You can count on them to keep fighting through, not get distracted by the noise. You know, I was struck by Steph Curry, who's coaching a new player on the Golden State Warriors team right now, and he said, gotta block out the noise, gotta block out the noise. Focus, right? Day to day, trust the process, get better. It is that doggedness with a focus in mind that is a trait of elite leaders. Number two, they're willing to push the boundaries. Right? They're willing to challenge the norms and the rules and try to always get that advantage. Now, there's some alignment here with the growth mindset, but really what this is about is never accepting what is, always pushing forward. Number three, they don't seek limelight. They're willing to do the dirty work. Remember, the limelight happens after you do all the work and the world thinks it's great, and then you get the limelight, and then you don't actually want it after you get the limelight, right? But there's so many people who start out seeking the limelight or thinking leaders are limelight people, right? That is a product, he found, of doing the hard work or leading from behind. Great story about Tom Brady when he came into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He sat with the equipment manager and he showed him the right brushes to use on the right footballs and the right temperature and the right way to brush. And he's actually down there doing this minuscule little task, right? Worth hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe the greatest quarterback of all time. But he's doing the dirty stuff and he's getting in there. He cares that much. And that brings us to four. A low-key, inclusive communication style. Constant communication, not grandstanding. Constant small adjustments. And Sam talked about Tim Duncan, who was great at this. He would constantly scan his teammates, looking for where they might have some insecurity or where they might need some coaching. And he wouldn't say a lot. He would say one or two things to them. Or Tom Brady came up and delivered a really powerful low-key message. After the NFC Championship game, one of his teammates was crying. He was so happy to finally make it to the Super Bowl. And Tom walked up and said, "What the F are you crying about? We got a Super Bowl to go win." And it didn't just impact that player, it impacted the players around him who immediately reoriented their thinking. So great leaders continuously reorient their thinking, constant coaching, right? Without judgment. And that's the key. You can coach without judgment. We'll get to number 6 and why that's important. Then this one's a little more specific to sports, but it actually has application in the business and your personal world as well. Motivating through action. And he said great leaders, Sam Walker did, are not afraid to go make a display, nonverbal display, smash something on the ground, slam a door and leave everyone in their own silence. Big, dramatic, nonverbal displays. Now, in the corporate world, one company I worked with had acquired another company that was equal size. They actually went through a symbolic burning of the old cultures to create a new culture, and they said it was the most profound thing that they did. Another company literally burned the boats. Well, not literally burned the boats, but they took away all the office furniture that had made up their offices and took down the walls, and everyone came back to a big open office. Now, is an open office what you want? I don't know, but the symbolism is there, right? We're working together. Then, conviction and courage, and this goes back to low-key, inclusive communication style. Do you have the conviction and the courage to have the hard conversations, again, without judgment, that's the key, so that you can constantly move forward? Lots of communication, conviction, courage around that communication, conviction, courage about what we're going to do. And I would add in, there's an element of faith needed here. And then the seventh, ironclad emotional control, high emotional intelligence. See, I've talked about Dan Goleman's work with EQ, and he said leaders use emotions in the right way. And when they're in that moment, whether it's Tim Duncan in the NBA Finals or Tom Brady in the last 2 minutes of the game, ironclad emotional control. And everyone can see that. And what they see is a leader who is not going to be swayed or be overcome by the moment. And that begets faith, and that begets belief. Now let's talk about these in your personal world. Great list to judge how you self-lead. Do you have focus and doggedness, or are you constantly getting distracted? Are you making progress on a daily basis? Are you accepting the norms, or are you constantly looking for something new that gives you an edge, right? And this is the heart of innovation. Are you willing to do the dirty work? Do you eat your frogs? Or do you avoid the dirty work and just hope someone's going to recognize you as awesome? Well, guess what? Everyone's a little awesome, right? It's the hard work that will get you that. How do you talk to yourself? This is number 4, and this is one we're going to go into a lot more depth in next week. Do you have a non-judgmental, constant, good coaching communication style with yourself? You talk to yourself between 15 and 50,000 times a day. No one coaches you more than you coach yourself. What is your own internal communication style? Then, what symbols do you have? And have you created symbols and moments that allow you to break free from the past and move forward? Then, conviction and courage. Are you honest with yourself? Do you have the courage to confront your weaknesses so that you can grow and get better? And then, do you exhibit emotional control, or are you constantly swaying in the emotional winds where things affect your self-esteem? And again, if you're driven by self-esteem, you're going to have lack of emotional control, right? So it's a great checklist for your personal life. Here's the overall wrap-up message. Leadership is about creating belief, and that process of belief isn't just a set of innate traits. It's literally a set of traits that anyone can practice and get better on. How do you lead yourself? How do you lead your team? And if you're thinking about how to apply this on your team, do you have all these traits on the team? You may not all have them as a leader, but do you have them on your team? Or in your personal life, have you created an environment where you have these 7 aspects in your personal life? And how are you doing against those? Fantastic book, The Captain Class by Sam Walker. And certainly going to look forward to today's Super Bowl no matter what the outcome. And that is this week's Mind Espresso.